Hello everyone and welcome back to Rob Races and Rebuilds. I know it's been a minute since I posted. We're going on 2.5 months or so now. But race season has officially started up. My local club has already done 2 events. I happened to miss the first one. The second event I competed in my white 9th gen, which the car is decent, but it's not my most competitive, so I need to kind of get my ass in gear and get Shingo ready to race again. So as the title suggests, I'm looking to make Shingo a little bit quicker. I've got a few parts over here on the bench. We're going to try and make it more maximized for its class. It's nothing crazy. Some of it is replacement parts. A few of it's just mostly tuning changes. I want to try and compete more in the Alberta region this year, and there's a lot of really competitive guys out there, so I want to try and give myself the best chance of winning by maximizing the car. But before we get into the video, there's kind of one thing I need to mention. It's a little depressing. I don't really want to bring the vibe of the video down, but sadly, my little co-star Jackie, if you guys have watched the channel for a while, you know she's always in the shop hanging out with me. Sadly, Jackie is not with us anymore. About a month ago, she was hit on the highway and it broke her back and broke her legs, and unfortunately I had to put her down and put her out of her misery. So, like I said, I don't want to drag down the vibe of the video, but Jackie was an important part of the channel, so it's definitely worth mentioning to you guys. If you stick around to the end, I'm going to do a little video collage and picture collage of all our favorite moments with Jackie, so stick around for that. Anyways, with all that being said, let's get into the video and I'll show you what parts I bought for Shingo to try and make it better. Alright, I got the parts laid out here on the bench. You'll see, first off, we have a set of brand new Coney yellows. Now, if you followed along with the Shingo series, or if you race with me in the real world, you know Shingo does already have rear Coney yellows. They've got 3 or 4 seasons on them now, and one last year was starting to leak. So I'm going to replace both of those. They still perform decent, and I'll probably keep them around as spares or use them in a different project, but I want to go fresh and replace those. The next thing you're going to see here is a set of rear sway bar brackets. So these are off of a 9th Gen SI. And there's actually 3 variations of these on a 9th Gen SI. You can get the 2012 ones, which look and function, I believe, identical to an 8th Gen bracket. They have no gusseting. They are just a stamped piece of metal. If you go to 2013, it's that same stamped piece, but it has a small gusset welded into it just to stiffen it up a bit. If I have a picture, I'll throw it up. And then you go to the 2014 and 15 style, which is what I have here. They are made of a slightly thicker steel, and they have this basically sleeved bracket welded into the bottom. So it adds a ton of thickness and a ton of strength, and hopefully it'll cause less flex and probably make the body of the car stronger, because sometimes they can be prone to cracking in that area. The only thing is, if you're going to go to the 14 and 15 bracket setup, you need to buy these longer bolts, because this is much thicker than the standard bracket. So basically those are just a durability modification, because we are stepping up to the 24mm bar. So this car has now had a Progress 22mm in it for 1 full season and probably half a season before that, probably 1.5 seasons I'd say. It's been great. I honestly don't really have a complaint with it, but everyone seems to say the 24mm is the way to go. So I figured I'd give it a try and see for myself. So we got 24mm, it's adjustable. The 3 settings, I forget offhandedly, but I believe even the medium setting on the 24 is stiffer than the only setting on the 22. So being that this is a sedan, which is the long wheelbase, I'll probably go to straight stiff with it. And the car already has the adjustable blocks end links, so I'll reuse those. I'm not going to use the included Progress end links. The other thing you'll see here is another set of front bump stops, just OEM Honda ones. I'm going to try stiffening front bump stops this season. The car still has the stiffer rears in it, which I'm going to leave, but I'm going to go with a stiffer front in hopes to basically try and keep a little less lean in the front so we can hopefully have a little more camber control. And with more camber control, obviously we're going to hopefully see a little less positive camber, be easier on our tires, and the car should turn better. And then of course we just have a fresh bottle of oil and an OEM filter, just for maintenance reasons. Obviously I didn't change, or I haven't changed the oil since last year because the car was parked all winter. So those are the major suspension tuning changes, but there's one other big change I want to make, and that is the exhaust system. So we have two options for that. Let me show you what I got. Okay, what we have here is an NVIDIA Q300. Now this is obviously just the muffler section, just to show you for illustration purposes. I'm not going to bring my whole exhaust up here. But this is a 70mm system, so 2.75 inches. Not quite 3, but pretty darn close. So most guys are going to tell you that on a K-Series engine, 3-inch is the answer. 3-inch makes the most power. And I'm not going to deny that. 3-inch on an engine that has full bolt-ons and is tuned is definitely going to have the most benefit. You're going to see the most power gain. But what you got to remember, in my class, H Street, I can't do all those things. I can't do headers. I can't do a big intake. I can't have the car tuned. So if I just bolt a large tube exhaust on it, like 2.75 or 3-inch, yes, I will probably gain peak power. I might make 4 to 5 horsepower up around redline. But dynographs have shown that on a completely stock car with a 3-inch exhaust, that power you gain up high, you lose in the mid-range. From 4 to 6,000, I'll probably actually be down 4 or 5 horsepower or 4 or 5 foot-pounds of torque. And in autocross, especially where I autocross, which is a lot of small lot stuff, like I said, I am hoping to compete in Alberta this year, which is a bit larger lot, but my point is I spend a lot of time in the mid-range with this car. I need as much mid-range as possible, and putting a 3-inch on the car is going to hurt that, not help it. So, even though I have a brand new Q300 system here, I will not be using this. This is for a different project, which you guys are going to see very soon, by the way. So, let me get this off the bench and I'll show you what I'm actually going with. Okay, what we have here is a MagnaFlow catback system. So all 7 of you watching just went, MagnaFlow? Yeah, we're putting MagnaFlow on it. So, reason being I chose this exhaust. Well, there's actually a few. For one, it's 58mm, which is 2.25 inches. This is the smallest aftermarket high flow exhaust system you can buy for these cars. I mean, obviously you could go custom and do your own thing, but for off-the-shelf parts, everything aftermarket for these cars is 2.5 to 3-inch. To my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the only 2.25 system. So that's the reason I went with it. This exhaust is proven to make great mid-range and still improve a little bit of power up top because it does flow better than the stock system. The bends on this system are way smoother than stock. Where you make the corner around the gas tank, it's really smooth. It doesn't have any tight 90s, so it does flow really nice. The other really nice benefit of the exhaust, this exhaust, is the sound. I think for a stock 8th gen, this is the best sounding exhaust because it sounds so similar to stock, and these cars actually have a really nice sound from stock in my opinion. This is just a very lightly amplified version of stock. So when you're cruising on the highway at normal speeds, you honestly have no extra cabin noise. There's no drone. Even if you're going uphill in 6th gear, like you might notice just a little bit more than stock, but it's so minor. And it has a really nice clean sound when you go through the rev range. And yeah, I just, from a performance standpoint, it's exactly what I want, being 2¼ inch. And the sound is barely worse or barely louder than stock. So it's just, for me, it's the perfect choice. It keeps the car calm and tame, but it sounds nice when you crack it open. Now, there are some downsides to this exhaust. The look. Obviously, it has that classic, oh, it's rolling away on me. Obviously, it has that classic fart cannon look, which I'm not a fan of, I'll be honest with you. But I'm not doing it for looks. I'm doing it for performance and sound, so that is what it is. The other thing is, and I'm going to weigh it once I get the stock exhaust out of the car, but I don't think it's lighter. I actually believe it's a little bit heavier than the stock system. So, yes, you can argue that, well, those few horsepower you're gaining is negated by the weight you're gaining. Yes, maybe, probably, I don't know. But one thing I will say is, out of all the areas to lose weight on a car, the exhaust system, in my opinion, isn't that important, because where is the exhaust? It's on the lowest point of the car. So, I mean, if you want to lose weight anywhere, I'd rather lose a sunroof or something up high. Maybe lose a few pounds off myself. But having weight down low isn't really going to hurt anything. So, that's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. I'm excited to get this on the car because I miss the sound of it. If you recall, I used to have this system on my red FG2. Okay, so that is it for the changes to Shingo, with one exception. I did change the wheel and tire setup ever so slightly this season, and I think it's going to work well, but I'm not going to show that to you now. Let's get to work on the car. We've got a lot of stuff to do, and when it's ready for race day, I will reveal the new tire setup to you. So let's get into it. Okay guys, I got a bit of a jump start on you. I'm starting by pulling off the exhaust of the car, and I'm taking the complete system out, including the cat, because where the mid-pipe bolts to the cat, those bolts always get rusted. You have to cut them off. It's really hard to cut them off in the car unless you're wrecking the exhaust, and I want to keep the full stock exhaust on this car if I ever revert it back, because it's in decent condition. So I'm taking the whole system out so I can do it on the bench. I just got the 2 main bolts to go into the exhaust manifold out. The upper one came out really easy. The lower one, I fought it. I was trying to use my little mini torch and heat it up with no success. I could see the head of the bolt turning, but not the threads, so I knew it was gonna break. I tried to play with it back and forth. Couldn't get it. Ended up starting the car, running the car for like 20 minutes. Revved it up to 3,000–4,000 RPM to try and get some heat in the exhaust. I went under there. Tried it again, still no go. But the impact on it jarred it pretty good. It didn't break loose, but it jarred it really nice. And then I put my ratchet back on it and it broke loose. So that was a success story. That is done. So now I just gotta hop inside. We gotta pop the center console out so we can undo the O2 sensor. And we gotta pop this back wheel off so we can get to the rear muffler bolts. And I know those ones will come undone because I had them off before. I mean, it's years ago now, but when I bought this car, it had a muffler delete and I had put a muffler back on it. So those ones should come out. So let's get to it. Spider's freaking out. Okay, as you just saw, we got the mid pipe removed from the cap. 2 of the nuts actually came off, so I'm going to reuse those studs. I'm just going to clean up the threads a little bit. Got some new nuts here. And then the one I actually had to cut off, so I'll replace that with another bolt here. And I've got a nut for that as well. Magnaflow does include a set of bolts and nuts with their kit. But they're kind of cheap, and the thread is super coarse, and honestly they're almost too big to fit in this hole. You'd have to re-drill it, so I'm gonna forego those. But there's the gaskets and the clamps. Anyways, I decided I'd lay out the 3 systems I have here for you guys to show you. Obviously stock, Magnaflow, NVIDIA Q300. I thought it would just be a cool thing to compare them, and then after we compare them, let's weigh them and actually see who's the heaviest. It'll probably be the Q300. But immediately, when you are coming off of the cat, coming down, they're all pretty similarly designed. Q300's definitely the straightest flowing. The Magnaflow does have a joint right here, so there might be a little disruption, but not much. And then the stock system has that small resonator and a bit of a curve there. Actually, in that case, they all have a bit of a curve. But that one's probably the most extreme looking. And then as we round the corner to go by the gas tank, you'll notice there's quite a bit of a difference between them all. The Q300 makes a very harsh 90 and then a 45 through to the resonator. Whereas the Magnaflow, and this is one of the things I like about it, is it's a much more gradual bend. We've got a few maybe 20-degree bends in, and it's just a much smoother flowing path, even though the piping diameter isn't as large. And that emulates the factory exhaust quite a bit. It's just a lot smoother. And then after we go through our resonators, you can see kind of the same thing. The stock exhaust does quite the kick of 45, then 45 into the muffler. And the Magnaflow kind of goes up and then down again, but it's less extreme bends. It just seems like a flowier design. Same with the NVIDIA, it's also a pretty smooth transition. And then obviously into our tips, the factory exhaust is not a straight through design. The Magnaflow is straight through with perforated muffler, and then the Q300 is similar to stock in the sense that it's not a straight through. So The MagnaFlow muffler, even though it's not as big of piping as this, I'm willing to bet the MagnaFlow probably does flow better in the actual muffler itself. So yeah, kind of an interesting comparison, but let me grab a scale and I'll start carrying these and jumping on it and we'll see what we got. Okay, the weighing is done with our super accurate bathroom scale. So the results are interesting actually. If you look here, we got the stock muffler at 12.4 pounds. The MagnaFlow muffler is actually almost a pound lighter at 11.6. But our NVIDIA muffler was a whopping 20.2, which is not surprising. That thing is an absolute chonk. As far as our mid pipe goes, the stock was actually the lightest. No surprise there, it is quite small. It was 13.2 pounds. MagnaFlow mid pipe was about 4 pounds heavier at 17 pounds. And our NVIDIA mid pipe was very similar to the MagnaFlow at 16.8. Which, considering its extra size, that's pretty good. But it does have a smaller resonator than the MagnaFlow. So for total weights, our stock was 25.6 pounds. MagnaFlow came in at 28.6 and a whopping 37 for the NVIDIA. So, I mean, that's kind of what we expected. We expected the stock to be the lightest, but the MagnaFlow is only 3 pounds heavier. Now, that's not 100% accurate because I don't have the rubber isolators from the stock exhaust moved over to the MagnaFlow yet. So add a tiny bit for those and then a tiny bit for the clamps, probably add a pound. So realistically, I would say the MagnaFlow is probably 29 to 30 pounds and the stock is 25 to 26 pounds. So roughly a 4 pound difference. Not bad considering we are gaining a lot more flow, which is going to help our mid-range and our top end. And the car is going to sound like titties. So yeah, that is that. It's time to put the exhaust in the car. I'm not going to bore you with that. I mean, I don't have a hoist. I can't really film under there. What else do you need to see? I'm going to get the exhaust mounted up on the car. I'm going to show you guys the final fitment of it. And then probably towards the end of the video, when the car is more complete, we'll do some sound tests for it. As you guys just seen, exhaust is in the car. I just threw a brand new battery in it. It's been a few days since you guys actually seen me in the last clip, but this is the first ever start. I'm gonna let it warm up. We'll give it a few revs, and then since the engine will be warm, we'll do an oil change on this thing as well. So let her warm up. Okay, now that she's warmed up for a few minutes, I'll put you guys up behind the car, we'll give it a few revs and see what it sounds like. Camera probably won't do it justice, but you'll just have to trust a guy that MagnaFlow is where it's at.
go. There's a few revs. I guess we'll see what it ends up sounding like. It seems to be smoking a bit. I don't actually think that's a car because I've never noticed a car smoke before, but whatever manufacturing oils and stuff are in and on this exhaust are burning off, so it's a little hazy in here, but yeah. Now that it's nice and warm, let's drop the oil out of it and put something fresh in. Alright, public service announcement. If you like your engine, after you do an oil change, you should prime your oil system as to not dry start your car. So, fuse number 18. Which is a 15 amp fuse, is your ignition coils. Pull that fuse out, crank the car over till the oil light goes off. Maybe not all at one time if you care about your starter. I do maybe 5-second bursts 2 or 3 times so that it has oil pressure, and then you can start it. Alright? Alright. Put the fuse back in. Alright, oil change is done. God, I'm glad I only have to do an oil change on this thing once a year because I put, I don't know, roughly 5,000 Ks on it, which is equivalated to 3,000 freedom units, aka miles. So yeah, the oil filters on these cars are just stupid. Stupid. Maybe I'm just grumpy. Anywho, I went to the junkyard yesterday, day before, 2 days ago, doesn't matter. I went to the junkyard. I bought a new, and by new I mean very old and equally as crappy as the one I have, but slightly better, roof trim thing. As you can see on mine, if you look right there-ish, you can see the white clip because the inner rubber part has disintegrated. So this one is 3.2% less disintegrated, so I bought that. I think it was like $5. I also bought a Zenki tail garnish thing. This is the piece that goes between the tail lights. So on a Zenki version, it's flat and flush, and on a Kooky, it kind of has this outward bump. And all the Kooky ones are chrome, and all the Zenki ones are color matched, at least for SIs anyways. Unfortunately, I was dumb, and I bought one that has a keyhole in it, as you can see. I thought mine had a keyhole. Turns out it don't. So, wasn't a huge waste. I think I paid around $5 for this too. Either I can fill that hole in and repaint this red, because obviously it's not color matched, or I can go back to the junkyard, spend another $5 and get one maybe that doesn't have the hole in it, just to save myself time and energy and still have to paint it red. Anyways, this certainly isn't that pertinent to the video. Those are 2 things I want to do to Shingo to clean it up. While I was there, I also bought a black, why is the name evading me? Shifter bezel surround. And I don't see it here now, but I also bought the e-brake handle in black. So you guys know I did this car in black already if you've watched the previous episodes on Shingo. But my silver coupe, the one that's not right here right now, doesn't. So I kind of thought I'd buy those for the silver coupe because I really like the way it looks. But it turns out it looks like I've already lost the e-brake thing. Anyways, doesn't matter. Okay, enough rambling. Let's move on to something actually that'll make the car faster. We got the sway bar to do, we got the rear brackets to do, and I just got this cutting board in, which is a thick ass piece of Delrin. I bought it off Amazon. It was 20 bucks, but it's supposedly 3/4 inch thick. I think it might be closer to 5/8 if my eyeball meter is tuned in. But anyway, that's super heavy duty. We're gonna use that as a packer for the bump stops in the front. And I'm undetermined if I'm changing the rear bump stop setup or not. So, moral of the story, we need to get the front struts off and we need to get the rear sway bar out. Also, I never really talked about the exhaust fitment with you guys. I showed you around it. Honestly, it fits up pretty good. It looks nice-ish. I don't know. I couldn't get the tip to fit perfectly centered in the bumper. It sits a little to the left, but I'm not that picky. It's mostly a performance mod, not a visual mod. It was also close to one of the heat shields where it kind of rounds the corner. I had to just pry the heat shield out of the way just a touch, but yeah. All right, I'm gonna pull some shit off this thing so we can actually replace it with better shit, okay? Okay. All right, guys, I got the bar out here. I just took the end links off at the bar and left them installed in the car. So I want to show you the differences here between the two bars, between the bracket setups and everything. So let's have a look. First off, obviously the bar is 24 mil versus 22. Not really perceptible to the human eye, but obviously we have our adjustment settings here versus no adjustment on the 22 mil. And it does show in the instructions, whoever actually reads those, I don't know, but it shows firm setting, middle setting, soft setting. Unfortunately, it doesn't actually tell us the difference in inch pounds between these. I'll try and find that before the end of the video so I can actually tell you guys. And yeah, it says, drive your car carefully. Like that's gonna fucking happen. Anywho, so yeah, that's our adjustable bar. The next difference is the shackles that are included. So the shackles included with the 22 mil bar are just a very basic D-shackle with your bushing. And the brackets included with the 24 are actually a normal D-shackle like that, but they're actually gusseted over the top. So these will have a lot more strength in them. And then obviously these bushings are sized correctly. And then the next difference is actually the Honda part, and that is the brackets. So these are the stock 8th gen. GoPro bugged out on me. This thing's a piece of shit. Anywho. As I was saying, this is the normal 8th gen bracket stock to the car. You can see it has no gusseting or bracing. And this is the 2014-2015 SI bracket, which has the boxed insert plus a gusset. So this will be way stronger. The only thing is you need the longer bolts. This is the factory bolt. When you stick it in here, obviously that's not enough threads to engage. So we're throwing those away and installing these so that we have proper engagement. So that's basically it with the bar. This is just a bag of hardware and stuff. I don't need it because I already installed this hardware that came with a 22 mil, so that'll just keep around for spare stuff. And I wanted to show you the end links. So they include adjustable end links with the 24 mil bar, but they're just like a stock style ball joint. They're not the greatest. They're kind of small and hard to adjust, and apparently they have a lot of issues with loosening off. So we're not going to run those junk. Obviously, you're allowed to do whatever end links you want in street class on whichever end of the car you're doing the bar on. So the obvious choice is spherical. And Blocks Racing makes this nice kit for Golden Era Hondas that also works on these cars. They're spherical, adjustable, and they're really skookum. So I'm not going to open this bag because this car already has a set of blocks, spherical end links on it. I installed those last season, if you guys seen the previous build series on this car. I just wanted to show you that if you are going to go this route, I would recommend those end links before I'd use the stock Progress ones. So yeah, I'm going to get all this assembled so we can toss it in the car, and then we can move on to dampers. Okay, we've got the new brackets and the D-shackles installed with a good helping of sway bar jizz on both bushings, so we're ready to install it. I left these both sort of loose just to make it easier to install this bracket on the car, and then I believe I've showed this in a previous video, but I like to try and maximize the tolerance in those brackets and try and stuff the sway bar up as high as possible. So you guys know the drill. I'm not going to show that. I don't have a lift. You and me can't fit under there together. There's just not enough room. Can't be in my bubble that much. So sorry. So I'm going to get that installed off camera, and we'll go from there. Washer must have stayed on the car on that one. Okay, as I stated, I noticed these shocks had a tiny bit of weep last season, and they're honestly not looking as bad this season. They still feel really good. They still work fine. They go throughout their adjustments. But I did buy the new ones, so I'm going to install the new ones, and I'm going to save these good used ones for another project that I may or may not have coming to the channel. My car scenario right now is a little up in the air. So I just want to get these bump stops transferred over to the new shocks. We'll throw these back in the car. That'll be done, and then we're gonna move on to the front stuff, which is a little more involved because we need to build our packers. So let's throw these guys back together. And just like that, I can stuff these back in the car. That's nothing exciting, so I'll see you guys in a second when we are ready to do the fronts. I'm just gonna take those off as well, and I'll show you what we're doing. Alrighty guys, I got the shocks off the front of the car. As you can see here, I've got one blown apart. I'm gonna do one with you on camera, show you what I'm doing, and then I'll just do the other one off camera for ease. So, you can see these bump stops were brand new last season. They're still in pretty good shape. I mean, you can see they take a beating though. So I'm just going to use a set of freshies I bought from Honda. These I'll use for another project. And we are going to take a 2-inch hole saw and cut into this heavy ass piece of Delrin. And we're gonna make a packer. And once we do that, we'll cut the exact thickness of this packer off of the bump stop, and this will replace the piece we cut off, which, as per street class rules, that keeps us at the exact length of stock. You are allowed to shorten, but you are not allowed to extend. So this will keep us at the same length of stock, but by stiffening it, I don't know how much, because I ain't a scientist, I don't know math. I can do addition, but this is more of a, I've driven the car, I have a guesstimate of how it should feel by getting rid of this, and we'll try it, and if it's good, cool, if it's not, we'll change it. So, let us drill out a chunk of this, and we'll modify the bump stops, place them in, and reassemble the shock. Very small amount of play, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's a pretty nice snug fit. Cool. Okay, just gonna clean up the edges of this, and then we'll be ready to modify the bump stop. Okay, there's our finished product. Nothing too fancy, but it'll get the job done. So like I said, we want to mark the exact depth on this bump stop, which is basically the entire first portion of the butt plug. We just want to delete that, and I think we'll be perfect, basically right here in the middle of the groove. Actually, it's even the top of the groove. So, mark that, cut it with a razor blade. That's like chopping into a brand new part. Okay, there we go. And I did cut this as big as possible. Well, as big of a hole saw as I had. I wanted it to be a little oversized, because sometimes the way these top hats are in these cars are weird, and the bump stop can actually sit like a little crooked on the shaft. So I wanted it to be a little bigger in case it kind of sitting funny like that or whatever. So yeah, there we go. That's gonna be much stiffer bump stop like that versus, I can squish that first area really easily, right? No, we can't. Is it gonna be too stiff? Maybe. But, a little something I like to call just send it engineering. We gonna find out. All right, I'm gonna throw you guys on laps. We'll reassemble this shock, and then bibbidi bobbidi boo, I will do this one off camera. Got another one of those cut. And then we're getting close to being done on the car. My mom is in the city today. She's actually grabbed me some brand new sway bar bushings for the front, so I want to replace those. They're from Honda. I already did the oil change. We did the shocks, the bar. What else was there? Oh, I've got like the little cosmetic trim piece I want to change, and I guess the new wheel and tire setup. I don't think I'll put that on today. The first race that I'm taking this car to isn't till a week and 2 days from now, so I don't want the car or the tires to freeze outside overnight. But I will show you those before the video's up. I'm on a bit of a time crunch today actually, because I have an appointment to make, but I would like to get this car put together and insured so I can maybe take it for a drive there, because I miss driving it. So anyways, I should stop rambling and we should get the shock assembled. Okay, just catching you guys up. Car's back on the ground. Front suspension's done. Once I lowered the car down on the ground, I tightened the rear shocks so the bushings are clocked. And I'm just working now on this roof trim piece. I'm not really filming this because I'm not an expert at doing this. In fact, I'll show you the one I took off. Not a single bend taking it off. 3 actually. they're frustrating. I don't really know the method 100%, so there's no use in me filling your head with misinformation about it. But basically, you gotta shove and twist and pop and frustrate yourself, and eventually it'll go in. The one I got here isn't perfect. It's got some defects, but it was $5, and it was better than that one. So I'm gonna get this tossed in the car. And then I still haven't put the center console back in the car because we had that out from doing the exhaust, so that's gotta happen. And I like to run my Coney adjusters. I leave them on the shock, so I need to glue both of those on as well. And we're getting really close, so check in with you guys here in a bit. All right, so my mom just dropped off my bushings. They appear to be the right ones. Yep, 27 mil. And they were $16, not bad. So I'm not gonna have time to install those before my appointment, but I will do those later tonight when I get back, depending how my back is feeling. I got the adjusters. It's really dark, but I got the adjusters glued on, so those are installed. And you guys seen I finished installing all the cowl and stuff, as well as that new trim piece. By new I mean used. It's not perfect, but it looks better than the old one. The old one was all ripped right in there, and you could actually see the clips. So, and I made one small change in the interior. Last year when I got this car ready to go for autocross, I did a spoon shift knob, and I did a black shifter surround and e-brake surround. I'm gonna switch it up for a bit. I'm just gonna try a different one. I don't know if I'm gonna like it or not, but I got a hybrid 130R in black. So it looks a little dorky on camera. It looks bigger, but I mean, it is bigger than the spoon. Here's the spoon before for reference, but it's also pretty light like the spoon. It's made of Delrin. I like the size in the hand, and a little bit higher might be better for easier shifting in autocross. So I'm gonna give that a whirl, and we'll see if I like it or not. If I don't, I'll switch back to the spoon because I did enjoy the spoon. Okay, I gotta go get this thing insured, go to my acupuncture appointment. I will catch up with you guys later. We're gonna do those sway bar bushings, and I'll probably reveal the wheel and tire combo to you, and then we'll probably close out this video and we'll take this thing racing. So see you guys in a minute. For you a second, for me a while. Okay, bye. All right, fellas, it's been another day or two. We're back in the shop. You'll notice there's a blue FB6 behind me. Don't get excited, it's not mine, it's my mom's. It's here to get an oil change, and she probably wants me to polish her headlights, so I might do that too. But while she was in the city, she grabbed me some new bushings for the front sway bar. So I've already got one installed. These are the two old ones here, and this is the new one. So you can see, here, let me set you up. As you can see along that edge, they're pretty dry rotted. And the thing I noticed about them is they looked really oblongated, medulla oblongata. And the new one is nice and round. So they were a grand total of $7 each from a Honda. So picked up two new ones. Like I said, the one's already installed, so I just gotta toss this one in there, tighten that up, and that is done. And then I think all that's left for me is the wheels and tires and to give this thing a wash, but the weather's been kinda, so. I did drive it though. After I seen you guys last, I took it to my appointment, and yeah, it was fun to drive. It's nice to drive Shingo again. Obviously I haven't driven it on sporty tires, and I haven't driven it hard yet, but initially the bump stop modification on the front doesn't seem too harsh. It's not bouncy, or the ride really doesn't feel any different. So that's a good thing, I think. Once we actually get the grippy tires on, we'll probably know better. The exhaust is beautiful, zero drone. Actually, for the first 5 minutes I was driving it, I forgot I'd put an exhaust on. I was like, oh right, my exhaust. And I will put my windows down to step on it a little bit and listen to it. But yeah, no, totally a win. So let me get this other bushing in, and then I'll catch up with you guys after that. But first, let's look at this thing. Unfortunately, my mom's going to be selling it. I think it's got just shy of 200,000 kilometers, 125,000 miles or so. But she wants to get something more SUV-ish and automatic. Hate that word. But that's what she wants, so she's going to sell her SI. It's too bad. But what can you do? It's been a fun car for her. And yeah. Got some Motegi wheels. These used to be on my 9th gen back in the day. She's got some Indy Firehawks on there. And then it's got a K-tuned cooled air or short ram intake. Actually, speaking of which, I probably need to clean that too while I'm doing the oil. Yeah. Pretty nice little 9th gen, actually. I really like the Dyno Blue Pearl. But I know a lot of people don't like the 2012s because of their front end and their more basic interior, but I don't know. I never had an issue with them. Had a couple myself. Mom's had this one for a long time. Yeah, been a sweet car. Anyway, enough of that nonsense. Let's put this bushing in and keep making some progress. Okay, since this is kind of a long, drawn-out, semi-ranty, talky video anyways, I couldn't remember what brake pads I put in this car last year in the front, and a buddy of mine, Kurt, and I have been talking about brake pads a little bit because he was looking to replace the ones in the front of his FA5, which he also runs in H Street. And I kind of swore a little bit by the Raybestos. I think they're EHT. They're just like their Element 3 whatever pad. If you don't do super high-speed autocross, they have amazing street manners, and they seem to do really well on the small lot stuff. I think you could probably overheat them a little on bigger stuff, but they work good for me. Kurt didn't seem to like them, and I couldn't remember what I put in this car. So I was just digging through my folder of receipts here, and it looks like I'm running dynamic friction fronts. So I think they're a step down from track day. They might be like a, I don't know. I don't think they're like their base pad, but I think they're like a middle performance pad. They do dust a bit, but they work pretty sweet. So roundabout way, the whole reason I'm bringing this up is this year I actually applied for a Lordco sponsorship. And if you're not in Canada, Lordco is kind of like our Advance AutoZone, O'Reilly's, sure, all those things. And what Lordco does every year is they do like a grassroots racing program where you can kind of tell them what type of racing you do, what kind of car you have, you apply, blah, blah, blah. And if you get picked, they open an account under your name with a $500 credit in store, and you can purchase stuff through them with that $500 credit until it runs out. So I was thinking of redoing the brakes on this car this year. I was thinking of putting new rotors and pads in it, but I might actually keep these dynamic friction pads in here for a bit. We'll see. But I was still, like I said, I was considering buying rotors because these were used rotors that I put on it last year when we kind of refreshed the car, and I don't even remember what the rear rotors are. They might be, I replaced all the brakes on this car when I bought it like 3 years ago. Those might still be the original rotors, but anyway, again, rambling. So yeah, I'm gonna throw the receipt for the sway bushings in there, put that back in the car, and then I gotta get changed because I'm real dirty from rolling under this thing. My car wash is already closed because it's like 7 p.m. and I live in a small town, so nothing's open past 5. But I think it's probably warm enough, or going to be warm enough tonight. I can throw the wheels on this car. I want to see how everything's going to look and fit, and then I can also show you guys the new hot setup. So, let me get the new tire setup. Okay, so last year I ran the car on 2 different setups. No, if you include my coupe, I ran 3 different setups. In the beginning of the season when I was running my coupe, I ran 225/45 Falcon RT660 squared. That worked pretty good. Then when I got this car finished, I wanted to try staggered setup, so I did a 235/40 Falcon in the front, and I ended up running a 225/45 Falcon in the rear. And then I also had a full set of 225/45 stones, which I ran at Nationals and a few other events. Eliminator, I think I ran the Falcon setup, but anyways, I did try a few different things. I ultimately like the way the car feels the most with the 235s on the front. I know I sacrifice a little bit of gearing, but I really like the extra front end grip. And a 235 Falcon is realistically more like a 245. So up front, went with, like I just said, the 235/40 R17 Falcon 660 on the RPF1. So no switch up there. I don't know how well the camera picks it up, but they are pretty pinched, but they seem to work good. I like them. Unfortunately, I mean, these are brand new, but the date code on them is 48 week of 22, so end of 2022. So if I lose, that's my excuse. Now, what I did differently this year was the rear setup. So in hopes to loosen the back of this car up a little, which we did the bigger rear bar, and we did some bump stop tuning, I went with a smaller rear tire. So this is actually a 215/45/17, and I went with RE71 RS's. And the reason for that is the reason I went with the stone mostly over the Falcon in the back was it's lighter. It's actually a little over 2 pounds per tire, I believe. So I'm saving about 4 pounds in the back, which is good because that should basically negate the extra weight of my exhaust system. I have to look what that was, I've already forgotten. But it saves me 4 pounds or so in the back of unsprung weight. And going to a 215 is also going to be shorter than the previous 225, which is going to lower the rear of the car. Now, it's nothing drastic, but when you go to the 235/40 in the front and you have a 225/45 in the rear, you're giving the car more rake than it has from factory, and I was a little worried that that throws off weight distribution. So going this route, it brings the back end down almost as much as the front end comes down on the 235s. So it's going to level that out and hopefully help weight distribution. And I think it's also going to help static caster, because the car will not be 70s muscle car, it'll be on the level. That's my reasons. Take them or leave them. Yeah. Also, having a little tire in the back, because the back doesn't do that much work, it should warm up faster. At least that's what the fast guys say. So that's what we're gonna try. I was even gonna ball out and buy aluminum lug nuts and save 1 pound on the whole car. But then I thought, you know, I like living, and aluminum strips out easy, so we're gonna stick with the heavy steel nuts. Okay, let's throw these on the car, see how it looks. And maybe take it for a drive. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Alrighty guys, I know I said we're going to take it for a drive and wash it, but honestly, why not wait for a few days? You'll actually see me race it. Way more interesting than just driving it on the street, and who really gives a shit if I wash it? So, that's going to be it in this installment of Rob's vain attempt to make his car better to hide his shitty talent. Shitty talent? Lack of talent. That's the one. So, let me know what you guys think of the new upgrades mods setup. Do you think it was worth it? Do you think it'll make a difference? Probably not. Anyway, we'll find out in a few days. I will catch you guys on race day when we shake this thing down at a local event, and then a few weeks after that we'll be taking it to an airdrie event, which is where Canadian Nationals was last year, which is a fun venue, so hopefully we can do well there. And yeah, that's gonna be it for the video. I appreciate you watching. And if you guys are fans of the channel and you've been around for a bit, be sure to stick around and watch the little montage of all our Jackie memories, photos, and videos, because she was an important part of the channel and we're definitely going to miss her being around. So, catch you guys in the next one on race day. Peace out.